How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today I've got another video around the championship. So today we're going to be doing kind of like another preview type thing. We're going to be predicting every single championships club best player for the season. Now, I don't have like the greatest knowledge. I've said this in the last video that I did, which was the championship predictions. I did say I don't have the greatest knowledge on the majority of the teams, but obviously I do watch them whenever they're on TV. So if you are a fan of the club and I have got it wrong, then do correct me in the comment section down below and let me know who you think your best player will be this season. So if you do enjoy it, guys, do just like down below. Do subscribe to the channel as well if you are new around here. I'll have plenty more championship content, and also I'll be doing QPR vlogging as well for the season. So whatever QPR games I go to, I'll be doing a match day vlog of it. So do drop a like down below and just subscribe to the channel as well if you are new around here. Okay then, guys, so jumping straight into things, we're going to start off in alphabetical order. So the first club is Aston Villa. Now, we have gone for Jack Grealish. Maybe a bit of a dodgy shout as he could be leaving. A lot of clubs, Premier League clubs, rumoured to be interested in him, obviously, because he had a great season for Villa. Was probably their star player last season, and I expect him to do the same again if he is still there. Now, if Villa sell him, they'll probably get quite a bit of money out of him, but we'll have to wait and see if he goes or not. But if he does stay, he'll be an amazing player again this season, and I'm really expecting him to do well, and he'll be the key player for Villa if they are going to do anything this season. Nobody really knows what to expect with Aston Villa at the moment, what's really going on. It's all a bit confusing, so we'll have to wait and see if Grealish stays, but I do think he could be a very, very decent player again for Aston Villa this season. Now moving on to the second club, we have got Birmingham City, and my player I've gone for them is Hotten. Now, last season he did struggle a bit, he didn't really find too much form. He showed glimpses of what he can do for Birmingham, but he wasn't really consistent at all. So he needs to change that this season. I think he could have a big season this season under Gary Monk. And it's very important for him, really, to have a good season for his career, really. And if Birmingham are going to have an alright season, it's going to be very important with his performances, because he is, he's a good player, can take players on, and he can also score a goal as well, as we saw at Brentford. So if he can kind of recapture that form he had at Brentford and do it for Birmingham, then Birmingham could be in for a decent season. Moving on to our third club now, we do have Blackburn, and first one is a pretty obvious one. A lot of people talking about him. I've gone for Bradley Dack. Now, he's a player which did very well in League One, and he did actually get the League One Player of the Year. So we'll have to see how he can do in the Championship, if he can take that step up. I definitely expect him to do that. And if Blackburn are going to have a good season, he's going to be that key player. So I'm expecting to see a good season from Bradley Dack, and he'll probably get a few goals and quite a few assists as well. So hopefully for Blackburn anyway, it'll be a decent season for them. Now moving on to the fourth club we have got, this is Bolton, and I've gone for Sammy Ameobi here. He was a pretty important player for them last season. More so when Gary Medine left. He was the one who had to step up really and score a few goals. He did score a few goals the last season. A lot of pressure was on him from Bolton, and I still think they definitely need him to have a good season. He's going to be a big player for Bolton this season, so he's going to need to get a few goals and a few assists. So he's going to have to be that key player if he's going to keep Bolton up this season. It'll be a very difficult task. They have brought in a few players, Bolton, like that Wildschut guy, and then there's Oztumer as well, who are two pretty decent signings. But along with them two and Ameobi, they're going to be big players up front for Bolton if they're going to stay up this season. Now moving on to our next team, we have got Brentford, and here I've gone for Ryan Woods. This is a more defensive-minded player, more a central midfielder, and he's been amazing for Brentford over the last few seasons. A lot of clubs are talking about him, and they think he's a really, really decent player. He's just so decent at tackling and just getting around the pitch, and just doing a great job for Brentford. He's been their key player really in the last couple of seasons, and I don't really expect that to change, to be honest. If he stays at Brentford, which he probably will do, again, he'll have another good season for them, and he's a very, very consistent performer. Moving on to Bristol City now, we've got another player which could possibly be leaving. It's Joe Bryan, and I would have obviously said Bobby Reid for this, but he's obviously moved on now to Cardiff, and Joe Bryan could be also going into the Premier League as well with Bobby Reid, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But if he does stay, he's probably the best left back in the Championship, so I'd expect him to be very, very decent again this season if he does stay. And for a left back, he does so well, like getting forward with his goal contributions. So I just expect him to have another good season, just like last season. Now moving on to our next team, we have got Derby County, and for this one I've gone for a new signing of theirs, which is Harry Wilson. He's recently been loaned in from Liverpool. Last season was on loan at Hull, and he was amazing for them. He really did change their season once he came in. Whenever Hull were getting wins, it was always him that was scoring the goals. He averaged like a goal every 140 minutes or so, and that was for Hull City as well, who are a team down at the bottom fighting against relegation. And for a team like Derby, they're going to be creating a lot more chances, and having a lot more attacks overall, you'd expect Harry Wilson to then maybe even get higher goal contributions than what he got at Hull. So he could be in for an amazing season with Derby County. Very exciting time for them with Frank Lampard managing, and expecting some really nice attacking football from them. I was also thinking of maybe putting someone like Curtis Davis, but I thought I'd go for a bit more of an exciting option in Harry Wilson. Now moving on to Hull City, who we were just speaking about. I believe their key player this season will be Jared Bowen. He had a very, very good season last season. His breakthrough season, scored like 15 goals or something. So he did very well. And a lot of people didn't really expect that from him at the start of the season anyway. So I expect him to have another decent season. There was also Grosicki as well, who's another decent winger for Hull. But they have a few decent attackers, Hull do. So I'm expecting them to do. I'm expecting them to attack well and score a few goals. But they will definitely struggle against relegation. But they have got a few players which can definitely keep them out of that relegation zone and keep them in the Championship for another season. Moving on to Ipswich Town now, we have got our first goalkeeper of the video, and that is Bajkowski. He was a very key player for Ipswich last season. They finished around mid-table, and the reason for that was because of their keeper. He did so well for them, made so many saves, and a lot of clubs were interested with him, but he's actually signed a new contract at Ipswich, so he'll be staying there, and I expect him to have another good season. If Ipswich are going to stay clear of that relegation zone, which I would expect them to do, their keeper will be playing a big part in that, so I expect him to have another good season. And again, he's just a very consistent performer and one of the best keepers in the Championship. Now moving on to Leeds, we have now got another new signing. I've gone for Barry Douglas. Now, it really did surprise me that he was actually leaving Wolves because he had such a good season at Wolves last season. Got a load of assists at that left wing back role. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does this season at Leeds. Definitely say a weaker team than Wolves, but I still expect Barry Douglas to get a lot of assists down that left-hand side, and I expect him to do very well again. For £3 million, I think Leeds have got one of the signings of the window for the whole of the Championship there, so I expect him to be very good this season, get a few assists, get a few goals in there as well. So I expect that. I expect him to do very well for Leeds and be one of their key players. Moving on to our next team now, we've got Middlesbrough, and this is another player that could be leaving. It's Adama Traore. Now, he was very good for Middlesbrough for a large part of the season. He did have a few games where he was like absolutely terrible, but a lot of the games he was decent for them. And it's just about getting that consistent performances in, because he's an amazing player. The way he's just so fast, and he can take on players so easily and make fullbacks look like absolute mugs really. So I'm expecting a decent season from Adama Traore if he does stay at Middlesbrough. Maybe some other bigger clubs coming in for him, but under Tony Pulis, it seems like he's done pretty well under Tony Pulis since he's come in really. And Tony Pulis has brought the best out of him, made him the key player in Middlesbrough's attack. And if Middlesbrough are going to do well, I expect Adama Traore to get a lot of goals and assists this season. Moving on to our next club now, we have got Millwall, and it was a bit of a struggle for me to actually pick a player here, but I've gone for George Saville. He's been very good for them over the last couple of seasons now, and he ended up scoring like 10 goals last season, so very decent numbers for a guy who plays in centre mid. And it's just a difficult decision for Millwall because he had a lot of good players last season, no real like standout player. But I've gone for Saville. I think he was possibly the strongest player that they had last season. Scored a lot of goals from centre mid, as I said before, and just an overall very consistent performer for them. So I've gone for him. Then there's a lot of other decent players that Millwall have got. They've got a very strong squad all around, a very like an even squad. No real standout player. But I've gone for George Saville. I think he'll have another good season just because he's so consistent. Now for the next club, we have got Norwich, and this is maybe a bit of an interesting shout. I've gone for Jordan Rhodes. Now he's a new signing, obviously just brought in on loan from Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't really do great at Sheffield Wednesday, but he has done so well previously at other clubs as well, like Huddersfield and Blackburn. Scored so many goals in the Championship, and if he can bring back that form that he had before, Norwich could have a real good player this season. He could really push Norwich on quite far if he has a good season this season, because they have got a strong squad, Norwich have, but obviously they've lost James Maddison, so they'll need some more. They'll need some goals from someone, and Jordan Rhodes could be that guy for Norwich. I think he could have a very good season if he can rekindle his form that he had back in the Blackburn and Huddersfield days. Now the next team we have got is Nottingham Forest, and we have gone for Lewis Grabban here, and he's another player. He did so well last season playing for Aston Villa and Sunderland, scored a bag full of goals, one of the top scorers in the league. And playing for Nottingham Forest, you'd expect him to dominate a lot of the games with the signings they've made. I could have easily gone for some of the Portuguese players they brought in, but I've gone for Grabban just because he's more proven in the Championship. Obviously, he played there last season and was amazing. And playing for a team like Nottingham Forest, I think he'll be able to score loads and loads of goals for them. Now moving on to Preston now, I have gone for a more defensive-minded player this time. I've gone for Ben Pearson, and he's another player that's had a lot of interest in the past from Premier League clubs just because he's been so consistent for Preston. and he's just constantly around the pitch making tackles and just making a nuisance of himself, getting a lot of yellow cards, which he's definitely known for. So I'm expecting him to have another decent season. It's just consistent. It's just consistency, right? You're expecting him to do so well every week. He'll be one of the first names on the team sheet, and I'm expecting him to do really well again at Preston this season. Moving on to the next club now, and this is my club, QPR. And for this, I've gone for Ebere as our star player this season. I'm expecting him to do amazing this season just because he's been very, very decent in pre-season. I know you can't always believe what you see in pre-season, but he's looked so good, as a lot of our attacking players have so far in the pre-season. So I'm hoping he can have a really good season. This could be his breakthrough season where he really just proved to be one of the best players in the Championship this season. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. He's only got 1 year left in his contract. I said this in the Championship predictions video. He's only got 1 year left in his contract, and say he does have a good season, we could end up just letting him go for literally nothing. So hopefully he does sign a new contract with us, and then we can sell him on maybe for a lot of money in the future. And I just expect him to have a really good season just because the quality he's got, the quality he shows when he's on the ball is absolutely ridiculous. He takes on players, he's so composed on the ball, it's ridiculous. I'm really hoping he has a good season this season, and well, hopefully anyway, he'll be our star player. Moving on to Reading now, is a player which is probably going to be leaving, but other than this player, I really can't make a prediction for Reading's strongest player, to be honest, and I've gone for Liam Moore. Probably going to leave. I think he's handing in a transfer request. He's the main player that keeps it all together at Reading, and I reckon if they didn't have Liam Moore last season, they may have even got relegated. They were very close to going down last season, and if he does leave, they could be in serious trouble. So for them, they're going to have to keep hold of Liam Moore, or if they do sell him on, they're going to have to spend that money in a lot of new players as well if they are going to stay in this league this season. Moving on to a newly promoted side now, we have got Rotherham, and we've gone for Richard Wood as their strongest player this season. I've not really watched too much of Rotherham, I'm not going to lie. I've just watched him in the playoffs, and that's about it. And he was very decent for them in the playoffs, and it seems like he was a key player for them all season, the captain, and he's the one who's leading by example for Rotherham. So I've gone for him, and if Rotherham are going to stay up this season, which a lot of people are predicting to go down, he will be a key player, keeping it all together at the back. Moving on to our next team now, we have got Sheffield United, and for these I've gone for John Fleck. Now, he's been very consistent for them. He hasn't scored many goals from centre mid. He only scored 2 goals last season, but he managed to get quite a few assists, and he was a very consistent performer for them. Again, with Sheffield United, I didn't really know who to pick. They had a lot of strong players last season, but no real standout player. So I went for John Fleck. I think he did very well last season, and in the centre of midfield, he was very decent for them. Now moving on to our next team, we have got the other Sheffield club, which is Sheffield Wednesday. And for this one, I've gone for Fernando Forestieri. Now, he was a player that was injured for the large part of last season, and when he came back, did score a few goals as well. So I expect him, if he can stay fit all season, I expect him to be a really good player for Sheffield Wednesday, and I expect him to improve a lot on last season if he does stay fit, because he is really their talisman, their key player, and they did clearly miss him when he was out injured. So I think if he does get back, when he does play next season, because obviously he's back from injury, I think he'll be a very good player for them. I think he'll be their key player this season. Moving on to a recently relegated side now, we have got Stoke, and for this one I've gone for Joe Allen. I was really surprised to see Joe Allen actually sign a new contract at Stoke, because I thought in the Premier League he was one of their standout players for the season, along with Xherdan Shaqiri. So I think Joe Allen signing a new contract is massive news for Stoke, and having someone like him will be key for this season, because he's definitely a Premier League standard player. And in the Championship, I think he'll be able to do very well in the centre of midfield. So I expect Joe Allen to be that key player for Stoke, who's going to pull the strings and create a lot of chances for Stoke. Moving on to the next team now, we've got another relegated side, which is Swansea. And for this one, I have gone for Jordan Ayew. Now, there's definitely a good chance of him leaving as well, but right now he's still there, so I've gone for him. He was their key player last season, scored quite a few goals, and he was, to be fair, Swansea almost staying up. He almost did keep him up, to be fair. He was very decent last season for them, and I do kind of expect him to move on to another club, maybe like a mid-table Premier League team, or maybe move abroad. But if he does stay at Swansea, he'll score a bag full of goals in the Championship. Moving on to the third relegated team, it's pretty weird how all the three Premier League teams relegated to the Championship are all in alphabetical order. But for West Brom, we have gone for Jay Rodriguez. Now, he was a player that, again, he was pretty decent last season. He did score a few goals up front for West Brom, and in the Championship, you'd definitely expect him to score a lot of goals. He could maybe get 20 goals this season, something like that. Do very decent for West Brom. I'm definitely expecting big things from him. And yeah, I just think he'll be able to score a lot of goals for West Brom. They have a lot of people, a lot of decent players behind him as well, who will be playing passes to him. And if he is that key man for West Brom this season, then you can see him scoring a lot of goals. Now moving on to our final club, we have got Wigan, and they obviously are a newly promoted side as well. And we have gone for Nick Powell as their key player. Now he's a player that has been hit with injuries a lot throughout his career, but if he can get a full season under his belt, he could be very, very decent. So we'll have to wait and see. It could be a bit of a weird shout going for him, but definitely he's got quality. We can all see he's got quality there. Obviously formerly played for United, and you can just tell he's got a lot of quality. It's just about him staying fit and consistent for a whole season. So we'll have to see how he does in the Championship, and they will need a big season from him if they are going to stay up this season. So anyway guys, that will about do for the video. If you have enjoyed it, do drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new to here for more Championship videos. And guys, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.